In March, Vancouver, Infernal Equinox, and Motor City FurCon were disrupted by malicious actors. Not only these threats are becoming more common, but have been around a lot longer than you think. In 2007, 3 trolls from intersport websites 4chan and 7chan arrived on Thursday to raid Anthrocon, standing outside across the street in the rain, wearing apples and holding signs saying, "Polls closed," alluding to the Habbo hotel raid that happened last year. And this offensive text will get me demonetized. Uncle Kage came outside on bellows for them and accepted them despite hating furries. There's a crowd of fursuiters who stood near the trolls, with a few stopping on the signs and eventually throwing them away. They also spammed a Nintendo DS Picture Chat session, a drawing communication application featuring depictions of the protest closer in the guise of Kage. There was previously pushbacks from citizens against Anthrocon since 2006, the first year of being in Pittsburgh, despite the tourism revenue it brings. It saw 2,500 attendees, the largest furry convention at the time. An article published during this time falsely portrays furries as failures, rejecting their human lives to behave like animals. He asked the audience whether the former steelworkers are referred to wearing pimply faced nerd or a better representation of Pittsburgh. They even tried to accuse the largely LGBTQ plus panel of bringing AIDS, bringing up the homophobic stigma surrounding the seas during the 80s. Furries like animals with human characteristics and don't believe they're animals. Well, it's obvious now. Traditional media had more power 16 years ago. This is 4 years after the infamous CSI Fur and Loathing episode, portraying furries as sexual deviants and is riddled with inaccuracies for the sake of drama and ad revenue. It's one of the worst representations of fandom in mainstream culture. And while there were negative representations before, they were not as influential as the CSI episode. Despite the raid being largely unsuccessful, this wouldn't be the case for Midwest FurFest 2014, one of the most infamous and deadliest attacks, even almost a decade later. On Sunday at 1 a.m., a knock story from a broken chlorine power jar in the 9th floor stairwell was spreading throughout the 9th and 8th floors of the main hotel, being evacuated to the convention center, with some attendees still in their fursuits. 19 people were admitted to the hospital for nausea, dizziness, and other medical concerns, although thankfully none suffered long-term health consequences. The hotel was decontaminated after deeming it safe. People were allowed back in at 4 a.m. A journalist arrived at the convention and recorded it, becoming the footage used by news reports of not only in Chicago but across America. MSNBC's Mika Brzezinski was one of the most infamous, being completely unprofessional and leaving the building while 2 other anchors tried to keep their composure. Despite this major setback, the convention continued to run like normal. Vice followed up in 2016, reporting that an incident report filed by the police department was lodged a day later, sent to a detective a few weeks later, and closed on January 25th. The detectives declined to comment directly, but in the days following interviewed at least 30 hotel guests, more than 19 hotel employees along with hospital workers, taxi drivers, and local pool and hardware supply store employees that sell chlorines. While they investigated the location of several individuals, it's unclear how many were considered suspects. To this day, the perpetrators were never caught. 8 years later, a similar but unfortunately less aggressive protest happened again. On Saturday at 6:18 p.m., a Rexu addict stated, "They're carrying signs like, 'This is not normal. This is what a dying society looks like,' and saying things like, 'Trans people groom kids.'" Taskmaster at 6:35 p.m. states they have been yelling slurs at people. At 6:52 p.m., Six Ship tweeted a clear picture of the protesters. Notice the second protester sweatshirt has Trump on it. That bird guy asked to hold the signs at 7:28 p.m. posted a picture of them along with another sign saying, "Furries are gay." Taskmaster states they've already been kicked from the con. Security eventually came in, likely in response to complaints from attendees. A video of the 2 protesters would also be uploaded days later by Glitch, which gained significant attention. The protest is marketing orders at other conventions due to its ineffectiveness. The threat against Megaplex and Indie FurCon thankfully resulted in an arrest. Megaplex received an email on January 8th notifying them of a shooting threat seemingly written by Sparkles Doggo. On January 10th, police contacted Sparkles, who denied writing it, fleeing Lucky Elephant did due to them making similar threats in the past. On January 12th, the police met Lucky in person, showing the threatening post, eventually confessing to writing, editing, and sending it to someone who would report it. On Saturday evening, Vancouver was swatted. Received a call calling from Memphis, Tennessee that was meant to ruin the convention and attendees' experiences, and resulted in police evacuating the hotel, checking it, and giving the all clear. Vancouver encourages attendees to not give any further attention to the caller. Despite this setback, Vancouver saw 1,528 attendees, or 50% increase from last year. At Infernal Equinox on Sunday at 2 a.m., an incident near the South Tower elevators created a disturbance that spread throughout the convention. Hotel security then called the police immediately, with security volunteers patrolling shortly afterward, where they secured and swept the area. A lockdown was started, with the gaming lounge evacuated. 2 hours later, an all clear was called after no immediate threats were located. They assured the convention area was safe, thanking security and the police for the quick response and assistance, along with attendees for their cooperation and patience. The convention saw 3,338 attendees, or 49.6% increase from last year. Motor City FurCon, unlike the other 2 conventions, an attendee named Cassidy Civic will be the first report on the evacuation on Friday at 12:45 p.m., showing many attendees outside while police entered the hotel. Several news outlets produced this video and reports, elaborating that organizers received an email from an unidentified person who sent a bomb threat to the convention, and that the police were going to sweep the hotel and investigate attendees' rooms to make sure the hotel is safe. Like the last 2 incidents, no one has been hurt, no reports of explosive devices were found, and at 4 p.m. the convention tweeted that the attendees were free to return to the hotel. The convention saw 1,571 attendees, or 15.4% increase from last year. While it's not as much as the other 2 conventions, it's still an increase overall. The unfortunate main benefit of squatting furry conventions is the caller's anonymity and the lack of punishment for the misuse, especially for results in no deaths. Stop these attacks. Conservative and far-right anti-furry and anti-trans propaganda needs to stop, but this will take time. Increasing the punishment punishment for misusing the service, especially with the intent of harming people, and making it easier to find who is doing it will help. Such reforms will ensure large gatherings, furry or not, are safe. If you want to know the safety of the largest furry convention, check out if Midwest FurFest 2022 is safe.